We got a big show today. Lots going on. You got an FCC investigation. This is a biggie into Disney, The View, ABC News. We're going to talk all about that. Brendan Carr means business. Bob Iger, watch out. Plus, Newsmax just went public. It was like a little IPO, but what do you know? The whole thing blew up. It's up nearly 700% in trading right now, putting the valuation at the company somewhere around $6 billion. I guess they're really going to be able to take on Fox News in more ways than one. We're going to get into all of that. And did you see the latest unbelievable out of Wisconsin? Elon Musk was there with Antonio Garcia. They had been looking into what was really going on at the Social Security Administration. And, well, it'll scare you to death because none of this is good. None of this is good. It basically points to fraudulent activity. And I'll tell you, this stuff has to stop. It has to stop. So he's exposing all of that, and we are exposing the rest of it. Welcome to the program. Make sure that you subscribe. I'm Trish Regan. It's so good to have you here, everyone. Always good to have you here on this Monday. We got started a little bit earlier today. How about that for a change? Unlike Friday, very, very late night, right? But we brought in some new people that I don't think had been here before. So welcome to all of them. Breaking right now, the FCC is investigating one Disney, one ABC News, and one The View. So this is really bad news for, well, shall we say, one Whoopi Goldberg, who probably doesn't welcome this at this point in time. I'll tell you, there is a lot there. There's a lot there. You know it. I know it. Brendan Carr knows it. I think Bob Iger knows it. Disney knows it. Shareholders know it. Anyway, this just coming out. He announced that he is going to be investigating the whole DEI discrimination measures that they had put in place because, frankly, they were unconstitutional. Absolutely unconstitutional. He sent off a letter late on Friday. I want to share parts of it with you. This is just really tremendous. Basically, Mr. Iger, I'm writing to inform you that I have asked the FCC's Enforcement Bureau to open an investigation into Disney and ABC in particular. I want to ensure that Disney and ABC have not been violating FCC equal employment opportunity regulations by promoting invidious forms of DEI discrimination. Oh, he's going after them big time. He actually cites a bunch of things that they did, a bunch of programs like Reimagine Tomorrow, and says, look, it's his duty right now to make sure that there is no discrimination, which would be unconstitutional, at an FCC-controlled property. FCC-controlled in that the FCC controls the airways. Take a look at this. Some of the things that they were doing, racially segregated affinity programs, according to Brendan Carr. Well, we know about that. They actually were really proud of those things. Remember I played that soundbite for you of the woman who was like running that whole Reimagine Tomorrow thing? They had that initiative for DEI. They had inclusion standards all across ABC News requiring 50% of regular and recurring characters at ABC programming be drawn from underrepresented groups. May have forced racial and identity quotas into every level of production, demanding 50% or more of writers, directors, crew, vendors be selected based on group identity, not on whether or not you could do the job. Well, now we know why Snow White failed so miserably, and Captain America and a whole bunch of other things. This is the best here. This is the best. So in the letter on page 2, I actually broke this out. Actually, this is on page 1. Forgive me. He says, I want to ensure that Disney ends any and all discriminatory initiatives in substance, not just name. For another, I want to determine whether Disney's actions, whether ongoing or recently ended, complied at all times with applicable FCC regulations. I highlighted whether ongoing or recently ended, because they had a whole bunch of stuff they were doing, right? That's how we got Snow White. And they were so trapped up in this PC nonsense that they wound up with a bunch of CGI dwarfs, or Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. That's how we got, I suspect, Captain America, who really doesn't seem to believe in the values of America as he so expressed on the international stage while doing a promotion for the film in Rome, Italy. This is how we got all these, particular characters, and it's like everybody's got to be something. I recently, the things that kids will get you to do, I recently took a Disney cruise. It was not the cruise that you saw me on, but I've recently been on one. And I was kind of interested because everyone in The Little Mermaid was African American. I think that the mermaid story, like that comes from sort of like Irish folklore, right? And that's why she's supposed to have red hair, and that's sort of the Irish thing. Or you get the pirate thing that they're coming out with. It's based on a famous Irish pirate woman that they are recasting. Anyway, like, look, I think if somebody's a good enough actress, good enough singer, or whatever, you can get there. But when you're putting mandates and you're saying, okay, now we have to cast somebody who's a different color because this is where we're going with our reimagined tomorrow business, then you're getting into weird territory. But you want a really weird territory? So I went back and I found in my phone something from October 18th, 2022. Take a look at this, guys. Boys' costumes. I was actually looking for a costume for my son, who was around 9 years old at the time, and he wanted to be Dash. Okay, Dash, you know, from the Disney Pixar Incredibles, and the little boy who runs really fast. My son's a really fast runner, so he wanted to be Dash. And I took a picture of this at the time, and I went back and I found it specifically for today's show because I was livid. Okay, what do we see here? Boys' costumes. And then what do you see? These are the top costumes that come up. The Jasmine costume for kids, the Belle costume for kids, Beauty and the Beast. And then they get the Mirabelle costume for kids from El Canto. And so it goes. I mean, the first 5 costumes are like princess costumes. What is going on? The Aurora costume for Sleeping Beauty, Moana, and I kept doing it. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, I'm annoyed. I'm offended now. I'm looking for a boy's costume. I just want to be Dash, right? My son just wants to be Dash from The Incredibles, and this is the garbage. What the heck is going on? And just again, to reiterate, I took pictures, I took video. Boys' costumes. This is the first thing that came up. So these people, they got some explaining to do. And this is why I like what Brendan is saying. He wants to go back in time and find out not just what's going on now, but anything that's recently ended. Because, of course, they had 2 DEI programs that they recently came out in the last couple of weeks and said that they were suspending, right? Well, what about all this that was going down? What about the people that lost jobs in movies because you had to give it to 50% underrepresented groups? Or what about people like Gina Carano, right? Gina Carano, you remember her? She had a big Disney career. And then all of a sudden she gets fired because she doesn't buy into their he, her, their, them, I don't know, you know, the pronoun thing, right? That Rachel Zegler, who was so aptly cast as Snow White for the wokeified version that miserably failed at the box office and will continue to do so, Gina Carano did this interview with Tucker and she's like, yeah, you know, they got rid of me because of this. This is not right. This is not constitutional. This is not legal. Listen to Gina.
When I wouldn't hashtag trans rights and I wouldn't put my pronouns in, like they kept on it pressuring. And finally, I just said, I'm not doing this. You know, like I'm not like, what are the pronouns? I didn't even know what people were talking about. I was just not clued in to the pronouns thing, which apparently that's been happening for like 7-8 years now, right? It's been happening.
But no one has ever explained its purpose. What I mean,
I didn't know.
You're just supposed to know.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, you're a bigot.
Yeah. Well, then I put beep bop boop in my
beep bop boop.
Yeah.
So that, if I'm translating, that just means middle finger to you, right?
That just meant I can put anything I want in my bio. I can do whatever I want. That's all that was.
Because you thought it was a free country.
Yeah, because I thought it was. Yes.
Yeah, right.
But I was
just trying to follow your train of reasoning here.
Yeah, I just you can put anything in your bio that you want, and the whole meltdown that caused was just, I mean, and then in
a bad way, or are people impressed? I'm impressed.
No, I mean it's cool now, but this was mind you, this was like a year and a half ago. So this was like I was speaking out about lockdowns, mass vaccinations, and pronouns way before anybody was even like saying a word about it. And so I was a little bit ahead. I'm sure if I would have done that now, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But because I was talking about this when nobody else was talking about it, especially nobody else in my industry, it was like Lucasfilm called me and they were like, okay, we're going to need you to go on a Zoom call with 45 of our, LGBTQ, community. And we have to get you on the phone with these people. We need to have you watch all of these these movies about the trans lives, documentaries, and And I was like, okay, I'll watch your documentaries and I'll talk to your people, but I'm not going to get on a Zoom call with 45 different people who can have their phones out videotaping me. And I feel like that's extremely abusive.
Yeah. Well, they were pretty abusive to her, and then they fired her because she put beep, bop, boop for her pronouns. And Rachel Zegler, the Snow White from HELL, that totally tanked the box office, so much so that the producer's son is even like going on and on about it. I mean, she was just a disaster in every shape, way, and form, and a very, very entitled little 20-year-old, maybe she's 22 now, I think she's still 20, little actress from New Jersey who got a little too big, a little too fast, and didn't really understand how the world actually works. And she was up there on her soapbox. She was attacking Gina left and right. And I know how that feels. I mean, yours truly, right? What did I say? This is ridiculous that we're shutting down the economy and the country, and this is going to be basically used against Trump. Back in March 2020, I said all that, and I suffered a penalty too, which is why we're independent here. And by the way, I'm very thankful to be independent because this is where it's at. This is the future. Streaming is everything right now, and I don't have to deal with all the corporate stuff and blah, blah, blah. So it all worked out in the end. But I know what Gina felt like. I know what that's like. To all of a sudden have your employer say, hey, I'm going to see you because you're not prescribing to the status quo kind of thought that they want you to have. And so, in her case, she's actually suing. She's suing Disney, and she's got Elon Musk backing to do it. But overall, let's talk about this in terms of the lawsuit itself, or the investigation, I should say, itself, because Bob Iger allowed this all to happen. Why did he allow this to happen? What was in it for him? I think that they were even, according to this letter, tying bonuses for executives to how much they were able to kind of meet these quotas on having 50% or more writers, directors, crew, and vendors be selected based on group identity. How crazy is that? It appears, Brendan Carr writes, that executive bonuses may have been tied to DEI performance, and ABC has utilized race-based hiring databases and restricted fellowships to select demographic groups. That's illegal. Okay, that's discrimination. And this company is going to go down because of it. You know what? Brendan's going to make sure that ABC goes bye-bye. Because you know what? They can revoke all those licenses. Who the heck wants The View anyway? Which, by the way, I'm going to get to this, why Whoopi Goldberg is so darn nervous right now. He writes, although your company recently made some changes to how it brands certain efforts, it is not clear that the underlying policies have changed in a fundamental manner, nor that past practices complied with relevant FCC regulations. They didn't comply with FCC regulations. They didn't comply with the Constitution. Thank you very much. You can't just say we're not going to give you the part because you're not black or you're not Hispanic or you're not trans. Come on. This is great too. He says in the very beginning, he makes the point about how this was such an iconic American company. It's kind of sad to watch this, right? Like I'm looking at this company whose stock price was over $200 just 5 years ago and now is trading around 90 something. He writes, Dear Mr. Iger, I'm writing to inform you about the FCC Enforcement Bureau's opening of an investigation into Disney and ABC. He goes on and he says, basically, this was once a great company. Disney started out a century ago as an iconic American company. For decades, Disney focused on churning out box office and programming successes, but then something changed. Disney has now been embroiled in rounds of controversy surrounding its DEI policies. Numerous reports indicate that Disney's leadership went all in on invidious forms of DEI discrimination a few years ago, and apparently did so in a manner that affected many aspects of your company's decision. As you know, the Communications Act and communications rules prohibits regulated entities like Disney's ABC from discriminating on the basis of race, color, religion, natural origin, age, or gender. And yet this is what they were doing. So the FCC has a lot of bandwidth here, and Disney's really scared. Remember how Bob Iger told us he wanted to sell off all he could of the ABC stuff, any of the sort of traditional cable. He wanted to get rid of traditional cable, traditional network television. The network stuff is in part because of this, because he falls under Brendan Carr's jurisdiction. And so this is going to be a super headache. Like they get it. I'm sorry. Like I'm just over this company. You can only take so much. You can only take so much. And I think this was what did it for me. I mean, what would you guys think? You're shopping for your son's costume on Disney, October 18th, 2022, looking for a boy's costume. I'm in the boys' costume section. Take a look at that. And the top costumes they pitched me are a bunch of princess outfits? Come on, like, no, all right? Enough already. Your programming sucks. Your costume selection sucks. Your stock price sucks. Disney, I don't know what the answer is. I think you got to get rid of Bob. I mean, maybe Bob's the problem. Granted, it's kind of endemic, right? Like the whole system has been polluted by these employees that believe they are entitled, and you bring all these people in because they check off all these boxes, and maybe they don't know how to do their jobs, and they don't care about doing their jobs. Because guess what? They don't care where the stock price is. They don't care whether the company makes money or not. They're just there to promote their agenda. And that has to end. That's part of why Donald Trump, by the way, was elected. If you guys had any sense in the world, like any sense, you would actually understand, one, as a business, you want to turn out movies that people actually want to see. Two, you got to abide by the Constitution, which means you can't be discriminating against people and saying, well, we're not going to give you this job as Little Mermaid because you're white. Three, you got to actually play ball with this new administration, and not just play ball. You've got to change everything. Let's go back to, how it used to be. Remember Michael Eisner? I remember him because he actually had a show on CNBC while I was at CNBC. Michael Eisner really believed in sort of what Disney could be. And then you bring Bob Iger, who had a political bias, granted, and something happened. Like something happened on the way to the forum. And then Bob Chapek, who was the other Bob, who really was a disaster. They brought Bob Iger back in. But I think it actually starts at the top. I always do. And if you have bad management that is encouraging this and allowing this, then you are going to be left with a company that is just basically a shadow of itself, right? A shadow of what it could once be. We discussed this previously, but I can tell you, there's not anything there in the company because you've loaded up on all the woke employees. You have no entertainment division anymore. You should have listened to Nelson Peltz way back when he was trying to sell off parts of the company. He was the activist investor who came in and said things have got to change. They didn't take his advice. They have doubled down on nonsense, and now they are going to pay the price. And you know who else is going to pay the price? Whoopi Goldberg is going to pay the price. We did a big report on Disney recently in the 76 Research newsletter. I encourage you to go and take a look at this. These are our portfolios, all of which have been beating the S&P, which is a good thing to be beating right about now. I think the market's down a little bit today. Volatility's back, guys, so you want to know what you're doing. I encourage you to go check out my financial research newsletter, 76 Research. Just use code $, so you can get it cheaply. First 2 months, just $1. Whoopi Goldberg is freaking out right now as this FCC investigation makes news all over the hallways and all through the hallways at ABC News. You see, Whoopi has a certain history with Donald Trump. She used to like to spit when she said his name, for example.
You can't refute anything with him because he just, when I say him, I mean...
He rambles.
Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
But can I mention one thing? Because Trump is out there calling...
Did you say his name?
I said his name.
Oh,
yeah, it was a trick and it made me do it. But I'm just saying that that Biden knows...
So you see, she has to spit when she says his name. There was that moment when she suggested fraudulently, and look, by the way, I'm all for free speech, right? You can say whatever you want, but in this particular case, you are governed by FCC rules. You do have some responsibility to present the truth. They don't present the truth in any way, shape, or form. They had a bunch of ladies that just piled onto him and made up stuff like this, that he's going to put you in a camp. Like some kind of, going back to the Hitler days, of course, again, he's going to put you in a camp if you don't agree with him.
What's interesting for me is that...
Spit it out.
People's faith in the country is waning.
Yes.
That's the thing that's pissing me off. Because, in fact... There's a reason Joe Biden ran the way he did. There's a reason he's running for democracy now, because that's really what's at stake. You worried that you can't pay your bill? Wait till the other guy becomes president, and you won't have to worry about it because you'll be in some camp somewhere. Because that's his promise. His promise to us is he's going to force people to do his bidding. That's what he said. I'm going to be good on day one, and I'm going to turn into this other person. So here's
you hear that, guys? Because you're going to be in a camp somewhere? That's what she was saying during the election. She really did not want him to win. I'm guessing Bob Iger did not want him to win. Don't forget, Bob took away all funding that Disney had, all advertising on Twitter, now known as X, as soon as Elon got in there. Elon didn't appreciate it very much. What did he say? You think that you can manipulate me or control me with money? Well, F you, Bob. You listening? F you, Bob. Well, then, just a couple of weeks ago, this was on March 11th, 2025, you had Whoopi back on the show pitching misinformation once again. Misinformation about Joe Biden.
This helped send the market into free fall yesterday, which some MAGA folks are blaming on the Biden economy.
Oh, boy.
So let me just remind you about the Biden economy, okay? The economy added 16.6 million jobs, and gross domestic product grew 12.6. They are the only administration in history to have created jobs every single month.
Yes.
They achieved...
You really want to go back to the Biden economy? I mean, really, you want to take that on? She's reading from her notes because she doesn't know anything. Well, I can tell you right off the top of my head. Guess what? CPI, Consumer Price Index, it was upwards of 9% shortly after Biden came in because he printed all that money. And then he had Nancy and Chuck printing much more, trillions of dollars that they were trying to pump into this economy. He put forward a third COVID stimulus check. He had the Fed going to town all day long. They printed. Not only was CPI, Consumer Price Index, up, guess what? PPI was in double digits. I mean, we've never recovered from this, okay? I still recently was on vacation. I'm like, are you kidding me? How much is this hotel room? I'm still like in this sticker shock mode. You go to the grocery store, things have come down a little bit. You go to fill up your gas tank, things have come down a little bit, but still we're way ahead of where we were. That is the reality of the Biden economy, and that is a big part of why he's out of there. Whoopi, you can say all these lies, but I'm telling you, you got the FCC breathing down your back right now, so I'd be a little bit more careful. She's terrified, okay? She's terrified, guys, because one, they've already fired a bunch of her producers. Two, they've already put her on notice. Lately, she's been trying to attack Elon Musk instead of one Donald Trump because she knows the handwriting is on the wall. She does not have that gig much longer. Joy Behar, what did she do? She sold her house out in Sag Harbor, or is trying to sell it for $10.5 million, all 4,000 square feet of the little salt box. And, well, you know what? I guess prices are high in Sag Harbor. I wonder if Letitia should take a look at that. $10.5 million. I'm joking, of course, but that's effectively what she did with Donald Trump, getting in the way of a private transaction. Joy Behar must see the handwriting on the wall. In other words, they know they are going to be the sacrificial lambs when it's all said and done. The View is going away because it should. There is no way that the FCC should be allowing broadcast licenses to ABC affiliates paying for that kind of garbage. It is garbage. You guys want to do that? You can go stream it and see if anybody watches. They won't. Because that is not a product worth consuming. So they are scared at the View. They are panicked. They know that their days are numbered, but they should be. And this investigation is going to cause all kinds of other issues. Bob Iger is not doing a good job. I'm just looking at Don Bacca's comments. He used to trade Disney, I think, right? Didn't you? Or at least maybe you're shorting it right now. Bob Chapek was trying to kill DEI. He wanted to focus on parks and cruises. Iger let him be the fall guy. The stock rallied under Chapek. It rallied, but then it was challenged, right? Don, I mean, I think Chapek was up against a machine because Bob had already put in all of these woke people that all had these woke agendas. I played you guys a couple of weeks ago the soundbite of the woman saying, oh, we need this, we need more trans, we need more gay people as our fine. Look, you know what? I'm not going to judge, but I'm going to just tell you this. We can get into that another time, right? But I'm going to just tell you, as a consumer, do you think that that's what I want to take my kids to see? Short answer, no. No one does. They were making fun of the flyover states. Guess what? The flyover states are actually their customers. They have lost their core customer because much like Bud Light, they didn't care about their core customer. They didn't respect their core customer, and their core customer is leaving in droves. And now they got the government on their back like you wouldn't believe, and it's kind of great. Really, it is. It's kind of great. Reminder to subscribe, share. Like, this is great, right? Like, this is the future. They're doing a terrible job at streaming because, look, if you don't have good content to stream, it doesn't matter. Here I am out on my own, totally independent. It's just me and you guys. And look at how we've been growing. I mean, we're coming up on 700,000 subs here on this channel. And it's because I think people respond to authenticity. They respond to something that's real. And they don't want the wokeified BS that Disney's dishing out all day long. I mean, that's all they got, right? It's pretty gross. I want to get to the markets for a moment because markets have been pretty darn volatile, but there's one company that's just a shining star. Newsmax. My friends over at Newsmax are pretty happy today. They're popping the champagne corks because they just IPO'd, and check that out, up 667% right now. Wild debut. So it was just a teeny tiny little IPO, $75 million that they were floating on the New York Stock Exchange. And wow, the appetite for this company, again, because I think that you need a presence. Having conservatives in the news business actually is relative and important right now. And you can't just have one game in town, being Fox News. You need more than one. It's important to diversify. And now Newsmax is on the scene, and investors are gobbling this thing up. Pretty impressive. Newsmax going public at a massive valuation here. Chris Ruddy started this thing, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It was originally just a website, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And you know it, of course, from television. I'm on it quite frequently. I have a lot of friends there, both that are on the hosting side and also behind the scenes on the production side. In fact, here's a little tidbit for you. The woman who created this YouTube channel, which she created like a lot of years ago because she was working on at the time I had a 2 p.m. show on Fox Business. She said, you really ought to have a YouTube channel. I'm like, what, a YouTube channel? Like, why would I need that? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, I really think you need it. And so she put this together and she put it in my name. And then I never used it until like, a year and a half ago. And thank goodness she did. Anyway, she's a big deal producer over there. I'm so happy for her and all of these guys over there. They deserve this. It's a massive valuation. I'm going to tell you, you know what this means? Fox News, watch out. Fox News, Newsmax now has deeper pockets thanks to the cash infusion that they are getting from investors. And that means they can create a bigger and better product every single day. And I actually think that the product is pretty darn good as it is. And they were giving you a run for your money as it was. So now they got the financial backing, becoming overnight a $6 billion company. That's the valuation on this thing. So that means that there's going to be a little competition. And isn't it good to have a little bit of competition? I mean, why should we have only all the liberals out there with all their networks and their publications? Why not have a little competition on the conservative side too? I think it's great news. I really do. I'm proud of what they've been able to accomplish in my own small way, being a contributor over there. I go on from time to time just to say hi and give you my views on things in the regular TV world. I'm really happy with all that they are doing. They have a streaming side of the business, which is smart. They have the cable side of the business, which they're now able to collect revenue off of, and that is smart. And they're offering an alternative, which is so critical in today's environment. So congrats to them. It's a lot of money, and I think now Fox better watch out. I know Fox has always sort of paid attention to them, and they've always been watching them out of the corner of their eye. They really got scared right after 2020, and it seemed that Newsmax was really leaning into Trump and Fox was backing off of Trump. And that's when you started to see this splinter where all of a sudden Newsmax was beating pretty consistently a lot of those Fox shows. And so what did Fox do? It pivoted back. It pivoted back to be pro-Trump, because they realized, well, that's where our bread is buttered. But I think it left a lot of people sort of questioning the authenticity, right, of the program again, and what management was really about. I mean, I guess it's about money at the end of the day. But little Newsmax, the upstart, was very consistent in its sort of set of beliefs. And I think viewers responded to that and have been very sticky with the network as a result. So again, congratulations to them. As we talk about the markets today and we look at this volatility is most definitely back, although the markets have rallied, I think, a little bit from earlier in the morning. Again, I think I've told you this before. Often I look at these as buying opportunities because I have a time horizon that affords such. If you don't, you want to be very selective, right, about what you're doing, which is one of the reasons why we have something like the income builder and the inflation protection portfolios at 76 Research. American Resilience is a growth portfolio. Jonathan Mason, thank you for your generosity. We got a couple of you guys coming in with this today, so I so appreciate it always. Again, we're just a little independent over here, but it's kind of nice. You know what? I would trade this any day for the big corporate you know what. Anyway, I mentioned the markets in light of Newsmax and also in light of this story. This is incredible to me. Gold is beating the S&P now. This happened as of Friday. It's higher than the S&P. I mean, it's amazing, right? Over a 20-year time horizon. It's one of the reasons we include gold in a lot of our portfolios at 76. And it's one of the reasons why I would encourage you to call my friends over at American Heart for Gold. Trish loves gold. You know it, right? It's just off the tip of your tongue. TrishLovesGold.com. Go to Trish Loves Gold to learn more. You can get up to $15,000 actually in free silver. And again, I say this because we are an independent news platform here, news and opinion. And so we're thankful to our sponsors, people like American Heart for Gold, who make this all happen. So if you're interested in buying gold, check them out. $15,000 in free silver. You can text my name, Trish, to 65532, or you can call them at 1-844-495-1115, or just go to that handy little handle, TrishLovesGold.com, and sign up. It's well worth it. Gold has been, up 17% this year. Goldman Sachs predicting it's going to be somewhere around 3,300. Rob and I, obviously, at 76 Research, like it very much. So I encourage you to take a peek. The media is going crazy right now because Donald Trump dropped a little something that has them all very, very nervous. He did this interview on the phone with Kristen Welker from NBC over the weekend, and she asked him if he would want a third term, and he said, maybe, it's not a joke. Well, my gosh, they're going bonkers. Before I show you how upset they are, think about this. He actually could, technically speaking, probably pull this up. Whether or not he wants to, he did say to Kristen, look, I got enough on my plate. I'm trying to get everything going right now. I can't even think about a third term. But if he really, really wanted it, could he do it? Apparently. The Daily Mail actually went and dug something up that's kind of interesting, a paper that somebody had written actually back in the 90s on how a president could get a third term. So I want to share that with you. But first, it all goes back to this, the 22nd Amendment, which reads, no person shall be elected to the office of the presidency more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than once. So breaking that down, there's this Minnesota Law Review article that was written by somebody named Bruce Peabody, a professor there, the twice and the future president, and it outlines how basically this amendment has been subject to a lot of misunderstanding and concludes that the idea of any twice elected president is constitutionally prohibited from serving again is, quote, decidedly incorrect. How do you like this? According to the paper, we contend that the 22nd Amendment prescribes only the re-election of an already twice elected president. The key phrase in the amendment is no person shall be elected to the office of the presidency more than twice. And then it goes on to argue that that means a twice elected president would not be barred from later resuming the office due to the resignation or death of another president. So Trump could therefore run for vice president with Vance as an openly recognized nominal figure at the top of the ticket. Oh, kind of reminds me of Putin and Medvedev, right? Remember that? When Putin couldn't run for president again, so they stuck in Medvedev, but Putin was really running the show. Once he is sworn in, Vance could then resign, allowing his vice president, presumably Trump, to step into the office. The same procedure could actually be repeated in multiple elections. So this is what keeps liberals up at night. To win a fourth term, Trump would simply have to re-sign the presidency before the 2032 election and become the running mate of a nominal presidential candidate, which would be Vance or someone else. Woo! This is scaring them. Like, they can't even go to sleep right now. The anxiety is setting in. They had to talk about it all on MSNBC because Kristen had just done the interview. Trump said it's not a joke. Maybe I'd look at it, but the reality is I got too much on my plate in the here and now. I got to get the country going again. Hear the reaction in the liberal media as they melt down.
Entertaining a third term. You first, David.
Believe him. I think the biggest mistake of the last 8 years is we somehow fail to give credibility to Donald Trump's whims and his impulses, but we know it's true. And January 6th was a perfect example. If he says that he's not ruling it out, he's not ruling it out, and we should consider it a constitutional threat.
Okay. Susan?
He's been pushing the envelope on testing the Constitution, so I expect, that he'll continue to do that, maybe by seeking out a third term. But more importantly, short term, we're not talking about Signal and that scandal if we are talking about Trump's third term.
Don?
Yeah, I think both of them are exactly right. Steve Bannon was on Joe Rogan's podcast the other day laying out the very groundling seeds of how it's going to go down. And he said, listen, we are working on it. And by we, I mean the same people who work at the Heritage Foundation and these other well-funded, well-organized think tanks who are laying together the groundwork for things that actually come to pass. And the mainstream media and all of us on the left kind of blow it off as silly or improbable or unconstitutional. That doesn't matter to these folks. And I think you should take a third term or an effort at a third term as a legitimate campaign promise at this point.
Okay. I'm laughing at your comments because Leslie had the same reaction I did. Like, I saw it and I actually sent it to some friends and I'm like, is there something wrong with me that I think that maybe this would be great? I mean, if the Constitution allows for it, right? So if we can get into the nitty gritty on the 22nd Amendment and actually find that there is a loophole, okay, I get it if it's not allowed. But, FDR was there forever. And I kind of think that there's unfinished business. Like, there's a lot that has to get done. I mean, Pam Bondi's just getting started. We got Hunter Biden's ordeal there. He was never registered as a foreign lobbyist. We got to get through the Russia hoax. There's a lot. The Epstein stuff. I mean, it just keeps on going, right, ladies and gentlemen? So it may take more than 3 years to get it all done. And so I certainly hope the Republicans, maybe J.D. Vance, win that next leg. But I had the same reaction. I'm just laughing, Leslie, because we're not supposed to say that, right? But in some ways, I'm like, Anyway, CNN has a very different reaction, predictably, and they're effectively saying that this would be some kind of dictatorship. I want to share it with you.
The 12th Amendment seems to preclude that. So really what you're talking about is either complete, and utter chaos outside of our system, some sort of dictatorship where we don't actually have elections, which of course we hope doesn't happen, or something where the former president would become the Speaker of the House and then the president and the vice president would resign, in which case, of course, you would see court challenges because that goes against the spirit, if not actually the specific words in this 22nd Amendment. So I think it's very much a long shot.
Well, maybe not. It's kind of fun to see them get all worked up, though, if nothing else, right? As we look at what they have done and we look at how they've trampled over the Constitution, I think, frankly, again, it's like a kind of gaslighting when they're like, oh, it's Donald Trump. And I'm like, no. Guys, it's you. It's you. You're the one who put Letitia James in, a George Soros-funded AG, to go after Donald Trump and to try and bankrupt him. You guys are the ones who put in Fannie Willis, oh, poor Fannie, who, by the way, was just caught somewhere else with that no-good boyfriend of hers that she kept lying about, and actually unraveled that entire case rather spectacularly. You guys put her in. You put in Alvin Bragg. Like, you put in all these people to try and take down a former president who was running for the presidency again. That was you. You're the ones who created this Russia hoax with Comey going out and putting honeypots everywhere he could to try and ensnare and spy on these different campaigns. You're the ones that forged the FISA document. I mean, for goodness sake, so that you could get a warrant to spy on Carter Page at Trump Tower back in 2016. And somehow you think he's the problem? Come on, no way. I mean, it sort of reminds me of what's going on in France right now. You got Marine Le Pen, who's the conservative, who's been very outspoken, certainly on the immigration front. And what did they do to her? Exactly what they've wanted to do to Donald Trump. I'm sure everybody in the Democrat Party is like watching this very, very closely saying, ooh, we just need to be France, right? Marie Le Pen, found guilty of embezzlement, banned from next elections. That's all they cared about. So she's found guilty, I guess, in Belgium, but now she's banned for 5 years for the next round of elections because they are terrified of the gains that she's been making. Because, look, they screwed up, all right? They screwed up in Europe royally. They screwed up in the UK. They screwed up in France on the immigration front. They screwed up in Germany. And they have themselves one big grand old problem. And now Marie comes along and she's like, okay, well, we need to clean this immigration situation up. And they're like, nope, can't have that. So we'll just ban her. That's what they tried to do to Donald Trump with no success. And that's why we had to hear ad nauseum all about J6 and things got exaggerated, et cetera. You know, it was their way or the highway. And that's why you heard everything you heard and continue to hear on The View. But I think that's going to be a problem that's going to get nipped in the bud, courtesy of Brendan Carr. Another problem that needs to get nipped in the bud, this crazy, crazy, crazy debt load we have, the deficit spending we have, and Elon is working hard. He's working overtime. He's out in Wisconsin campaigning because that's a very important election there. And in that process, he has managed to expose all kinds of fake Social Security numbers. This is an unbelievable scandal. And leave it to Elon, who's able to get in there with his Doge team and look at the data like nobody ever has before and analyze the data like nobody has before. And what do you know? This is pretty frightening. I want to share with you some of the sound from the weekend there in Wisconsin.
One interesting statistic was that 40% of the calls into Social Security were fraudulent, like meaning that it was someone trying to get a Social Security payment that was going to a senior to go to instead to go to a fraud ring. So that was almost half of the phone calls were fraudulent. Probably the other half were people asking, what happened to my Social Security?
This is true, actually. Yeah.
Like, hey, where did this is bananas.
Yeah, I mean, we found this, actually. The people there at Social Security knew this was going on, and they had been complaining about it for a long time, and no one fixed it. And these were mostly criminal rings outside the country, in other places in the world that are jamming up the phone systems, calling in, using just these six simple security questions, because you can actually, this was how crazy it was, you could change your direct deposit information at Social Security by simply answering 6 questions on the phone, like your mother's maiden name, your date of birth, etc.
Like stuff you can find on the internet.
Easily found on the dark web. That's why it was so easy. It was a huge, huge exploitation, super open door. I mean, the bank vault was open, and the criminals ran right in and took the money, and they took it away from our seniors. Mm-hmm. Right? So what happened is, if like my dad's 84, he'd go get it, thought his check was supposed to be in the bank account, wasn't there, then he's got to go through a whole process to get the money back from the government, which takes a long time. It's the government, right? So we put in a very simple 2FA system. All this nonsense you see in the media about, we turned off the phone lines, but it's not true. All they did actually, we recommended to Social Security that they put in a very simple 2FA system, and they will...
Two-factor authentication.
Two-factor authentication. They same kind of use the banks. Like, pretty simple. You have a bank account, you do this, and you know what? They did it. They said, yeah, you're right, we should do that. They went and did it. Good for them. They did it. No one had the will to do it. They did it. And they're going to keep increasing security. We've given them a lot more recommendations, and they're on the road to increase security, stop all this nonsense, so our seniors and our people that are disabled don't get stolen from.
Wow, this is incredible. Okay, so there's one more soundbite I want to play for you, but you have to kind of turn the volume up, full disclosure, because it's like taken off a TV or something, I don't know. And it's hard to hear, but like it's so important because this graphic that they're going to show you is everything. They're showing you the increase in the number of Social Security numbers that were created from, well, people that were not here legally in the country during the Biden administration. And so I want you to see this. Turn the volume up if you have to. I'll do what I can to kind of boost it here.
And then Social Security Administration automatically sends you in the mail your Social Security number. No interview, no ID.
This is worth just reiterating. It's not people sometimes think that under the Biden administration that he was simply asleep at the switch. He wasn't asleep. They weren't asleep at the switch. It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States and disenfranchise the American people and make it a permanent, deep blue, one-party state from which there would be no escape.
Look, if I hadn't seen this myself, I'm not sure I'd believed it. I went through it myself and mapped it, and Elon is right. This is true. The defaults in the system, from Social Security to all of the benefit programs, have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people, and minimum collection. That's what's happening. We found 1.3 million of them already on Medicaid, as an example. We've gone through, on every benefit program we went through, we found groups from this particular group of people, this 5.5 million people, in those benefit programs. And then what was really, really disturbing us was why. We're asking ourselves why. And so we actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records. And we found people here registered to vote in this population, yes.
And who did vote.
And we found some by sampling that actually did vote.
Whoa.
And we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation Service.
Yeah.
Already pointing out right now. Yeah. And the truly disturbing thing, though, I just want you to know this is a truly disturbing thing to me, and the darkest thing about this to me, the voter fraud is terrible, but the human tragedy this created is extraordinary, because what you don't understand, people don't know, and Americans need to know, that's why I'm here, is that human traffickers made $13 to $15 billion off of this, okay? That's the money that's going around the world, moving people around the world to our borders because of these incentives. How does it work? What happens? Hey, if you're in Africa, you're in South America, you got to walk up through Mexico, through America. Who do you pay? You pay the narcos, you pay the traffickers, right? And we were told by ICE, it's between $20,000 and $500, depends where they pick you up, to walk across all those countries and give all.
Wow. Okay, so guys, this at least, I think, puts some perspective on all of this, because when you think about how we were like, why would they do this? Why wouldn't they actually enforce the borders? Why? How is this helpful? How is this helpful to any of our communities here where you have these financial drains? Why are they giving people like, $300 and some odd a week in special food cards, right? You got like a credit card for your food because they said you needed ethnically appropriate food. It was actually one of the first things that none other than Eric Adams got rid of as soon as Donald Trump came into power. But there's a reason for that, I think. And I'm going to point you to this. This is a fascinating story. 800,000 non-citizens could soon be voting in New York City elections. This came out just several weeks ago. New York's top court is considering a city law allowing non-citizens to register to vote in New York City's elections. And the court is going to be hearing arguments on this. This is what they're fighting for. And so Elon's brought this up before. The fear is that, look, they're bringing all kinds of people in here because they want to somehow tip the ballots in their favor. It's all about gaining control. And that's concerning. I think for every citizen, you can't have people that aren't here legally just swarming the country and then suddenly at the voting booths. I mean, it just doesn't even make any sense. And then on top of that, you can't afford to be giving them all of the freebies and fringe benefits that New York, for example, has been giving them. Or, you think about all those mayors that were quizzed recently on Capitol Hill. And we found out that New York's giving somewhere in the vicinity of $7 billion. You get the Chicago mayor that's given hundreds of millions of dollars. In Boston, they don't even want to tell you because they say it doesn't matter. We just give things to whoever needs them and we don't care if they're legal or not. Well, you can't run a country like that. You can't have a borderless society where suddenly now a certain group of people that go to work every day and in some cases are doing 2 or 3 jobs to try and just earn a living with this massive inflation. And then you have another team of people that are coming in and they're living, high off the hog on the dole, so to speak. I mean, to use a Roman reference, right? You want to go back to Rome? We can do that. We can do that all day long. What do you think the fall of Rome was all about? It was about overextending oneself financially, whether you had all the people living off the dole or whether you had all these military operations all over the world that Rome could not afford. Quick shout out for another great sponsor. Again, I am fully independent, and that is the beauty of what I do here. So please make sure you subscribe, share, like, make a comment. Make a comment. That actually helps the algorithm too. So do that. Thank you for that. And I see Chrome 131 liking and subbing, and I see I meant to thank one of our guys earlier who sent a super sticker. Thank you so much for that. Much appreciated. And I love being here every day for you guys. Balance in Nature is one of our sponsors. I take my fruits and veggies every day. They send them to me. They're little gummies. They taste really good. So that gets me eating my vitamins. It's better when they taste good, right? Much better. Anyway, so it helps with vitamin D, helps with vitamin C, all these things that we really need. And I love them for it. I love them for their sponsorship. So balanceofnature.com. Go there. Use my code word, Trish. You can call them too. 1-800-246-8751. 1-800-246-8751. But if you go there, make sure you use the code. It helps me. And it helps you because you're going to get 35% off, free shipping, and money back guarantees. So all of this stuff matters right now. I mean, there was one other little moment. I wanted to get to this because it's like we've got this contrast between, say, Elon Musk, who believes in individual freedoms and the right of every individual to thrive, versus George Soros, who believes in open borders, I mean, his borderless society nonsense, and has been backing all of these AGs and DAs and people that have been going after Trump over the last however many years. Soros versus Elon, it's a very sort of interesting setup. One of the things that happened in that little Social Security expose that was just amazing in Wisconsin was that there were protesters sent in, and I suspect they were paid protesters. Of course, we've learned that given what came out of Denver. I'll get to that. But take a listen to this. Elon calls him out and calls George Soros out.
Yeah, it's really wild. So, I mean, it was inevitable that at least a few Soros operatives would be in the audience. Give my regards to George. Say hi to George for me. USA, 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 USA. Yep. I mean, it was inevitable.
So he had some protesters there. But here's the thing. Are these guys like all protesters? It's kind of an interesting play on words. Protesters mean they're pros, right? They're paid. There was that rally that happened in Denver a weekend or so ago that AOC and Bernie Sanders were so incredibly proud of, where you had, I don't know, they said 35,000 people. It turned out to be around 20,000 people, still a pretty sizable crowd. But then when they looked at all the GPS data, what they found was that the majority of people that were there, 8 out of 10, had all been to some 9 different Kamala rallies, because you see, they're paid. They pay them, and who doesn't take that gig, right? You're some young college kid who is barely earning a living, and they're like, hey, we'll give you $400 to go show up at some Kamala rally or at this Denver thing, and we'll give you free food, and here you go, here's what you're supposed to do, and they print it all out for you, and they make your signs, and they make it easy. But you see, none of it is real. None of it is organic. None of it is true. You go to those Trump rallies, and I've been to them, and first of all, the nicest people in the world, so courteous, and they're there because they believe in him and what he is doing for this country, and it's a very, very different thing. I mean, they don't have to pay, Beyonce to come in and not sing. Remember that one? They get Beyonce to go to the Kamala rally. They don't have to pay Oprah Winfrey $2 million. That's what the New York Times reported. She says, no, I didn't get anything. But the New York Times reports that $2 million went to Oprah Winfrey's campaign. Look, there's something going on. There is a movement happening, and the left can't stop it. They just can't stop it. No matter how much they try to indoctrinate us with their Disney nonsense, no matter how much they try to sell princess costumes to boys at Halloween time on the Disney website, You see, I'm never going to let them live that one down. That was just disgusting. It's all going to change now. You get the FCC investigating them. You get the FBI investigating the Russia hoax. You know how much Trump wanted that discovery? So much so that he sued. Don't forget the lawsuit that happened just a couple of years ago, and Kash Patel said, look, we're going in under the RICO stuff, and it's for $75 million, but the reality here is we just want the information. We want the discovery. Well, now he's got it. He's declassifying everything. He is their worst nightmare because it's all coming out. And you know, I've talked a lot about what went down. And Joe Biden's his frustration that he wasn't able to do more to preserve democracy in the name of getting rid of all the misinformation, except the misinformation was coming from him, whether it was the Biden laptop, whether it was from his predecessor, the Russia stuff, whether it was, oh no, that virus couldn't possibly have come from the Wuhan, China lab, where it came from. I mean, this kind of stuff, they completely lied to us. And Joe Biden just wishes he had lied some more. Well, we're here for truth, and truth only. If you believe in truth like I do, you're here for a reason. Please make sure you subscribe. I'm going to be back here again tomorrow. It's good to see so many familiar faces. Yes, Cat Crazy, I'm early today. It's nice to be early. Peace of my mind, David Lorenzo. Peace of my mind, I saw you on 76 Research yesterday. That was wonderful to see. Guys, I also just want to give a shout out to my company that I started with all of you in mind, with my dear friend Rob, 76research.com. Go there, get the investment research that you need to plan for your future. And remember, I am back here always and forever with you. I'll see you tomorrow.